For hundreds of years, humans have been fascinated by the brain. And we've thought of pretty amazing things, like telekinesis and downloadable skills. But we didn't really have a way to control or manipulate the mind. Until someone discovered EEGs in 1924, and everything changed. We've been able to use EEGs to record electrical activity in the brain. And things have really ramped up since then. We've been able to use EEGs to allow humans to control a robotic arm or leg with their brain, as well as type with their brain. And that's not all. We've been using EEGs for a bunch of medical purposes as well, like diagnosing epilepsy. But if we want to move forward in this field, there's one specific problem we really have to address. And that's the problem of noise. And this noise is a big problem because EEGs have a really low signal-to-noise ratio. And this noise can be 100 times more detectable by these electrodes we put on our heads than the stuff we're supposed to be recording in our heads. And we've come up with some solutions to this. None perfect, but it's a start. First of all, ICA. I'm sure you've all heard of ICA. It's the most prominent solution we've been using to deal with these brainwaves. It uses statistical analysis and linear algebra and basically decomposes these EEG brainwaves into their separate components, allowing us to weed out the unfavorable ones. There's also been other methods like wavelet transform and adaptive filtering. But there's all one thing these methods have in common, and it's that they're very slow. Very slow. And what makes these methods very slow is that they're very computationally expensive, meaning that we have to first take these brainwaves and send it to a computer to compute it and then denoise it. And then we send it to some kind of device we're trying to control, meaning that these devices can't work in real time. So we have to discard those solutions if we want some EEG device to work in real time. Other methods, like deep learning and machine learning methods, similar to the asymmetric GAN we have here, have been able to reach some pretty high accuracies. For instance, this one has been able to reach an accuracy of 97%, which is pretty good. Other methods like support vector machines and artificial neural networks have been able to do pretty well too. But the main problem is that we don't have enough data. And if we want to have good machine learning models, we need a lot of data. And this data, first of all, we don't have enough people working in the field of BCIs. Number two, researchers aren't really lenient and don't want really to put out their data because of privacy and secrecy reasons. So a bunch of these models we have that supposedly have high accuracies have like a training set of 6 people and a testing data set of 2 people, which is not a good metric. Besides the fact that EEGs just have really, really low signal-to-noise ratios in general, leading us to the original problem. And as we've seen before, it's like less than 1% if it's 100 times more powerful than the stuff we have in our heads. And how can we combat this problem? You can look at other alternatives, like invasive brain-computer interfaces. But people aren't really comfortable with that, and we still have a long ways to go with that. And we also have the big machines you see in university labs and hospitals, similar to the MEG, which has a very, very high signal-to-noise ratio. It's the state of the art. But do you really want to be walking around with a gigantic ice cream cone on your head? Like, I don't think so. And now the real question is, what's our direction? What's our path? Where do we go? And I'd like to introduce you to a completely new device, the optical BCI. And how this optical BCI works is that previously we've been using electricity and magnetism to record and detect these brainwaves. What about using light? And this is kind of similar to FNIRS, where we detect the blood flow in the brain because we know that the more active parts of the brain need more blood flow. And rather than using FNIR, we'll use lasers. We've been able to create lasers that can penetrate both the skin and the skull, hitting the brain. And with these lasers, we can use these lasers to replace the electrodes we have, and have also receptors collecting the light it reflects. And when we shine these lasers into the brain, it'll hit the areas where the blood flow is the most. That will deflect these lasers the most, and therefore will tell where the signal is coming from, making both the spatial and temporal resolutions of these optical BCIs way better, or at least the spatial, way better than normal EEGs. Because with regular EEGs, we can't really tell where the brainwaves are coming from. But if we use these optical BCIs, you can tell exactly where these brainwaves are coming from, and also have temporal resolution similar to that of EEGs. Not to mention the original problem, that these optical BCIs will have much higher signal-to-noise ratios. Because unlike with electricity, where there's disturbances from your eye blinking and muscle movements, we won't have that with light. And this is actually what Facebook's working on. It's their secret project in Building A. And they're working on optical BCIs, which will allow humans to type at over 100 words per minute. And this is also leading to their master plan, which is to have a social media, but with your brain. Like Facebook, but brain book. But probably still Facebook. And this is where we're at right now. This is the new era of BCIs. And we'll need a lot more research on all fronts, and a lot more people looking in this problem. But now, the real question I want to ask you guys is, are you ready for it? Thank you.